What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. Hope you're all doing very, very well. We are going to talk about my DPS main for Season 4. So what my choice is going to be. And I'll tell you right off the bat, we are going back to melee, okay? So I had some fun with, Shadow Priest and Ellie Shaman, and we had a blast with those specs. And now I'm going to be returning to melee for sure for Season 4. And there are 3 options in front of you, okay? This video is essentially meant for you guys and me to collaborate a little bit, and I want to get your opinions. I want to hear what you guys think about the choices that I might be making. There are 3 choices in front of you, okay? We got Enhancement Shaman. It's the first one I'll talk about. We have Survival Hunter, and we have Frost DK. Those are the 3 choices that I'm thinking of. I'm going to walk through what I really love about each spec, what I think each spec brings to the table, and then also what I don't like and things that I think are not really great. I'm going to present all 3 of them, and then I want you guys to get down in the comments down below and let me know what you think about potential choices. I haven't chosen anything yet. I'm just putting all the cards on the table, okay? So, first of all, let's talk about Enhancement Shaman. What do I love about the spec? This is the spec that I fell in love with when I first started making videos on this game back in the dark days of Shadowlands. This was the first spec that I talked about. This is what I played. This was the main character that I used. I mean, a lot of nostalgia here for Enhancement Shaman. I love Enhancement Shaman. I've played it so much. I really understand it a lot better than probably any other spec, and I really do enjoy playing it. There's certain specs in the game that they're kind of just they really just fit your character and who you are, and that's kind of what Enhancement is for me. So I really do like it. What I also love about it is the different builds. So there are you could do a Fire Nova build. You can do the Elementalist build, which is the most common one. You can do the Storm build, which I really love. And they all actually do a decent amount of damage. Now, I do think that we're going to be leaning a particular direction next season, and we're going to talk about that in a second, in terms of which build you're probably going to be forced to play, which is, it's either here or there. Again, this is something that I want you guys to talk about down in the comments down below. But I just love the way that the spec feels. No matter what build I'm playing, I enjoy how Enhancement Shaman feels. It feels really, really fun to play, okay? And the damage is solid. The damage is really good. Honestly, no matter what build you're doing. This is a weird fireball I got going here. Sorry for the noise. Watch this here. We do this, and then we do this. This is a Fire Nova build. It's going to be actually fine. I think you could legit run this in your keys, and it would be fine. And do remember, when I talk about a DPS main, I am not talking about Raid. I'm talking about Mythic Plus. That's where we're going to be playing almost entirely, okay, with our DPS characters here. I'm not going to be bringing this to Raid. I'm healing in the Raid this tier. So again, just keep that in mind when we're talking about this. But I do believe there's honestly multiple builds you could do. I think this, but likely I think what you're going to be doing is probably the Elementalist build, and we'll talk about that in a second. What does Enhancement Shaman bring in terms of utility? Well, their utility is, of course, off the charts. It's way, way better than almost any other spec in the game. You got things like Cap Totem. You got your knockback with Thunderstorm or a knock up. You can knock them out of Sanguine or just knock them up most of the time if there's no Sanguine. You have a Poison Cleanse Totem, of course, for Afflicted Week. You can literally deal with all of the Afflicteds by yourself. Basically, every other Afflicted you can just handle all by yourself. You got Hex for Incorp, which is good. You've got extra, tank help with Earth Ellie. Not the greatest thing, but it's there. You got crazy healing with AG. You've got Bloodlust baseline. You have a Curse Dispel. You have a Purge. You have the best kick in the game in Wind Shear. I mean, there is so many good utility buttons that you have as an Enhancement Shaman. It's just really good. You can contribute a lot to your Mythic Plus group, which is fantastic. Let's talk about what I don't like about Enhancement Shaman. Number 1, they have incredibly short range. I think arguably the shortest range in the game now. Specs like Feral Druid and Rep Paladin are in another league now. Even Survival Hunter, which we're going to talk about in a minute, has much better range capabilities than Enhancement Shaman does. If you really want to do damage as an Enhancement Shaman, you must be right up underneath the boss or the mob. So it's very dangerous for that reason. That is one big setback for sure. The next one, of course, is that the tier set bonus that we're getting for Enhancement Shaman is the exact same one that we have now in Season 3, and that really bums me out. I am looking forward to a new tier set bonus every time I enter a new season. So the fact that there isn't going to be one is actually a big bummer to me personally. I know it's a strong tier set bonus. I understand that. Again, it's probably also going to shove you towards the Elementalist build, which is fine, but it's the same one that we had before, and I'm not a huge fan of playing the exact same tier set bonus for 6, 7, 8 months in a row. That's just not me. So that might not be a problem for you. It's a problem for me, okay? Again, as I've said before, I firmly believe you will be forced to play the Elementalist build, which is not my favorite version of Enhancement Shaman. I really love the deeply rooted Storm build. So it's not that I can't try the Storm build, but realistically speaking, guys, it's just like not going to be as good with this tier set bonus that focuses on Primordial Wave, right? The fact that we really have to focus on Primordial Wave and take the extra talents down here that buff it. If you don't take these talents for your Storm build, you're basically kind of trolling. So we'll see. I know there are different variations of the Storm build, but realistically speaking, the best build is likely going to be the Elementalist build. I've played a lot of Enhancement Shaman before, and this is something, obviously, for nostalgic reasons, I enjoy this spec, but I've played it a lot already. And for me, moving into a new season represents a new challenge, something that I can jump on, a new spec, maybe a new playstyle, maybe a new role, like a tank or something. Or, you know, if I'm doing damage, potentially a new class or a new spec. And that's not Enhancement Shaman for me because I've played the hell out of this thing. So that's a little bit of a con for me, is that I've played this a lot, and I just like to have a fresh new challenge going into a new season. Defensively, this is probably one of the weakest specs in the game. You've got Astral Shift, and you have health from Earth Ellie, and then you have Self-Sustain with, your Earth Shield and healing, but that's about it. So that's frustrating, I would say. It's very weak defensively, and it has capped AoE damage. Whether we like it or not, it has capped AoE damage. Even if you're running a Fire Nova build, it's still capped. The Hailstorm build is very capped, right? You end up getting, I think, an extra 4 targets. Yeah, so up to 5 targets max. So, and then you have 6 target max on your Flame Shock. So it's just really capped in terms of its AoE damage, which is actually a pretty big con, okay? That is Enhancement Shaman. Those are my thoughts on it. Let's move on to Survival Hunter. Okay, let's talk about Survival Hunter. This is a spec that I have played a lot of, actually, in recent times in Dragonflight, also a little bit in Shadowlands as well. And I do really enjoy Survival. It's like one of my favorite melees to play, for sure. Probably very close behind Enhancement Shaman. Over the years, it's been really, really good. So one thing I really love about Survival is the play style of kind of weaving in and out of combat. You can disengage out. You can harpoon back in. There's some really cool, like the style of it is just really fun. You really are like a mid-range spec. You are definitely not, you don't have to be anywhere near as close to the mobs as Enhancement Shaman does. It's way better that way. And then you just have a lot of ranged abilities that you can use when you're away from the boss. So if you have to respect like a mechanic that's coming in, you have to like get out of dodge, like just get away from the boss. You can do that, and then you can jump back in afterwards, which is really, really cool. So I think it's one of the best melee specs in terms of its range. I think it has the most range of really any of them. And you can harpoon in, like I said. You do your combo. You do a bunch of damage. And then you got to get out of dodge in a second here. You jump out, respect a mechanic, throw out a kill shot, hit a Serpent Sting, throw out another bomb, and then go back in with Coordinated Assault. I mean, you just have so many options in terms of your mobility. So in terms of mobility in combat, it's really, really strong, and I love that. Another pro is just the theme of Survival Hunter is really good, and a lot of their damage is uncapped AoE, and that is one of the biggest things. Your explosive shot is uncapped AoE. It is reduced beyond 5. Butchery is also reduced beyond 5. Your bombs, I believe, are complete. No, they're reduced beyond 8. So, and then your Fury of the Eagle is also reduced a little bit, but it is technically uncapped. It's like soft uncapped, right? Let's call it that. So I think like that's important because Enhancement Shaman is very capped in its AoE. So that's like a frustrating difference there. You can see even on 5-target cleave, the damage it's doing is perfectly fine. This would be great in any Mythic Plus environment. But the bigger you pull, the better it's actually going to get for Survival Hunter. So I love the playstyle. I love weaving in and out of combat. It's very fun, and the damage is really mostly uncapped with a soft uncap there. So very, very good that way. What does Survival Hunter actually bring into a key? Well, of course, you got Bloodlust, just like Enhancement Shaman does. You do have Hunter's Mark. It's a bit of a meme, but some of the bosses in the different dungeons actually stay at a very high health percentage for a little bit longer. So, for example, Halls of Infusion, the first boss on Halls of Infusion, that Titan guy, he stays, he can stay at a healthy health. So I think he doesn't, or maybe he starts low. I don't know. He actually might actually be the opposite. The point is, you can get some value to Hunter's Mark, It's not the greatest though. You do get a little bit of value there. I'm not necessarily really counting it as a pro because it's sort of another here nor there. Maybe on tyrannical weeks you get some bonus out of it. It's got decent utility. It's not as good as enhancement shaman, I wouldn't say, but it's got some different utility, which is really cool. So you have a single target stun with intimidation. You got a knockback with high explosive trap. This is actually surprisingly strong. You can knock like stray enemies into a pack. You can knock enemies out of sanguine. There is a lot of good uses for this thing that people don't ever think about. It's actually very, very good, and I use it all the time. Another piece of utility that people, I think, forget about is things like scatter shot. This is just a single target interrupt. If you have a mob that is very dangerous, you need to interrupt, it's a single target interrupt. It also helps you with Incorp. You can scattershot an Incorp, and it will stop them for a good, like, about 4 or 5 seconds. Then they're going to start casting again. It's more of an emergency measure if nobody else is getting the Incorp for you. But you can get Incorp all by yourself as a hunter, which is pretty insane. Freezing Trap can get one of them, and then you could take Scare Beast and get a second one, literally all on your own. You can deal with the entire Incorp problem all on your own, which is really crazy strong. You also, of course, have things like Binding Shot, which is good for the Spitefuls that are coming out on that week in Mythic Plus. So lots of like interesting utility that is a little bit different than, let's say, what Enhancement Shaman has, but I think is very powerful if you use it the right way. Which is very good. What do I not like about Survival Hunter? Let's just talk about that. I think that the tier set bonus that they're getting moving into Season 4, isn't the best. It's literally the Season 1 set that we had. It's going to improve your single target damage, which is good. Like, I think the set is going to be helpful for what Survival Hunter needs because they have good AoE damage, but their single target is a little bit lower. My frustration is that it's incredibly boring. It is so boring. It doesn't do anything fun or interesting with your spec. It's actually more boring than the Enhancement Shaman one. Arguably, the Enhancement Shaman one has a lot more interesting stuff going on there. So that is a frustrating thing for me. It is going to be, I think, powerful, but boring. And that is, like, not what I'm looking for when I'm moving into a new season. I want something that's exciting, something that changes my gameplay style. You know, I'm already pressing Mongoose Bite in a single target situation. This just makes me press Mongoose Bite harder. It's kind of like, it's kind of lame, okay? I'm not going to lie. That is definitely a big con. There's very little build variation for Survival Hunter. You're basically always taking Coordinated Assault with Birds of Prey. There's really no room for Bombardier since they buffed things like Lunge, reducing the cooldown of your bombs, and you have other cooldown reduction on your bombs anyway from things like Butchery. So you can't really take Bombardier. You can't take Spearhead because it's just literally useless, and it's kind of trapped over here behind some bad talents. So it's a little bit frustrating. You're really not going to have any talent variation at all compared to, say, let's say Enhancement Shaman, which I think you could try and do some different builds. Like I said, Elementalist is probably going to be the best one, but at least the option exists where you could actually try some different builds for fun. So that's a little bit of a problem. And then Survival Hunter is weak defensively. Again, similar to Enhancement Shaman. It's actually not as bad as Enhancement Shaman, I don't think, but it's still very weak. They're very close in terms of their weakness. If you don't have to bring Bloodlust, you can bring another pet, of course, that gives you a defensive option in Fortitude of the Bear. Then you can have Fortitude of the Bear and Survival of the Fittest and the Heal from Exhilaration and Turtle. Turtle is very underrated. It can stop like all kinds of problematic damage from coming through, like really, really big damage. Like think about like the spear phase in Neltharis, right? When Chargath throws his spears at everybody, you could just like negate all that damage that comes through. Or if he's gonna jump on you and put the bleed on you, that bleed is insane on Tyrannical Week. You can negate all that bleed damage with Turtle. So I think it's got an edge over Enhancement Shaman defensively, but it's definitely still got some weaknesses there. So that's Survival Hunter in a nutshell. Let's go to Frost DK. All right, here's our Frost DK. This spec like actually snuck up on me in the last couple of weeks, and it was something that I was just messing around with on stream, and I was like, hey, maybe I should actually like give this thing a shot again and see if it's something that could work in Season 4. And I've just been really enjoying it, playing it on live servers. Here's what I think is going to be really good about it. Here's what I love about Frost DK. The playstyle and the buttons feel really satisfying to press. When you press Obliterate, and it has a guaranteed crit proc, and it hits like 3 enemies because you get the cleave from Death and Decay. That feels so good, man. It feels so good. The tier set bonus that we're getting is the Frostworm's Fury one, and Frostworm's Fury feels really fun to play as well. It's, of course, going to freeze everything because you're going to take the Absolute Zero talent. So you're going to get that extra added utility, actually, in Mythic Plus, which is pretty good. You get another Frostworm's Fury when you press Pillars of Frost. So The tier set bonus is not only is it solid, I think it's strong. It feels fun to play. It also changes your talents a little bit. You have to go down and take these talents, which I'm okay with. I like it when tier set bonuses change things up a little bit. And it feels really fun to play. Like, it just has this visceral, like, you feel like you're really just smacking the crap out of the enemies, especially when you're doing the Obliterate build. I don't think I'm ever going to do a Breath of Sindragosa build because I just don't really know how to do it very well, and I also don't think it's that strong. But the Obliterate stuff I understand, and it feels fun to play. So that's the biggest first pro for me, is that it's really fun, and the tier set bonus is going to be really strong, and it's new, and it's interesting, which is great. And alongside that, one of the biggest things for me, as I've been saying, moving into a new season, is that I want something new and exciting and challenging. I want something that's going to challenge what I've been doing previously, and I have never done Frost DK before. I've never mained it. I've fiddled around with it. I kind of know how it works. Wow, somebody is seriously tanking this guy for a long time. What is going on here? He's got 136 stacks. It's something that I really want to try, and I think it's interesting to try new and fun and exciting things, and that is, like, really my big motivation here, is that I want to try something fun and exciting like Frost DK. Look at these crits. Like, it feels so good. Boom! You're just like, kabam! You hit them, and it just feels so good. Listen, tank, get out of the way. The damage is looking good as well. I think it's going to be fine, and again, it just feels really satisfying to play. We're going to talk about Death and Decay in a minute, because that's going to be a bit of a sore spot potentially. But one of the biggest things as well is that I think they have probably the most uncapped AoE of the specs that I've talked about. Survival Hunter might be a little bit better, but it's actually very, very close. Things like Glacial Advance and your Howling Blast and then Remorseless Winter, they are all uncapped AoE, which is insane. And then you also have really good cleave damage, of course, with your Obliterates when you're standing inside your Death and Decay. So they have a really good damage profile. I think especially the uncapped AoE is the biggest one, though. This is only 5 targets that we're hitting right here, but like in Mythic Plus, you're going to be hitting way, way more. And I think that's just going to make for really, really good time in Mythic Plus. Look at these numbers. Boom! And kaboom! It just feels really fun to press those buttons. That is one of the biggest things. When I'm playing a spec, I'm mostly just like, hey, man, how does this feel when I'm pressing it? But the uncapped AoE thing is a massive deal to me. Again, Remorseless Winter, Glacial Advance, Howling Blast, and then your Frostworm's Fury, and the extra Frostworm's Fury you get from Pillars of Frost, right? That is all uncapped AoE damage, which is really, really good, okay? So that's going to be awesome. Those are some really, really big pros. I think the biggest pro, honestly, is that I've never mained this before, and it's going to be a fun challenge that I can really sink my teeth into. What does Frost DK actually bring to the table? Well, of course, they have a battle res, which is really big. Having a battle res on a DPS like this is huge instead of having it like on your tank or your healer. I think it's nice to have an extra battle res there. It has really insane single target control. You get 2 charges of Death Grip, which is really good. You can grab mobs that are like out in Narnia and just pull them into the pack where the tank is, where everybody is, so that your AoE damage is hitting way, way harder. It's a really interesting form of utility that no other specs really bring. Only Death Knight really has it. So I love that. Abomination Limb, of course, brings mobs in as well. And you can interrupt mobs this way. It's an extra interrupt. You can see it that way as well. Not just, you can be standing right next to a mob, and you can just move over a couple feet and Death Grip them, and you'll stop them from casting whatever they were casting. So it has a lot of different utility there. You have a really good kick. It's almost as good as a Shaman kick. It's a 15-second instead of a 12. If you have this Cold Thirst, it'll actually become a 12-second kick, and it'll give you runic power. So it actually has even better utility than a Shaman kick. If you can do it, if you actually interrupt something with it, it's actually even better. So that's cool. It has, again, insane cleave damage that I talked about. Let's talk about its crowd control, though. Blinding Sleet, once again, you have an AoE interrupt, which is good. You've got Chains of Ice for kind of a single target slow. Not the best thing ever, but it's still there. And then you can talent into Asphyxiate if you want a single target stun, which is really good. Also, on the terms of the team utility, you have really good things like Anti-Magic Zone. And this thing stops 2.2 million damage, which is really insane. And I've used it a lot in the keys that I've been running, and it feels really, really strong. You have AMS for yourself, which leads me into the defensive layers that you have as a Frost DK. Frost DK is so much tankier than Survival and Enhancement Shaman, it's not even funny. Like, you get 20% more stamina just straight up from Veteran of the Third War. You're going to get Icebound Fortitude. You can take Death Pact if you want to. You have Lichborn, which is 15% DR and immunity to Charm and Fear and Sleep, and it also gives you some Leech. You got AMZ, AMS, Will of the Necropolis, giving you 30% DR if you take both points into it, which I should be. I don't know why I'm not in there, but anyway, it's really, really solid. The defensive capabilities of Frost DK are just crazy. They're so much better than the other two specs, so that's a really, really big pro as well. You can also take Dominate Undead, I believe, for Incorp week, and you can make the Incorp fight for you, right? So, plus, if you have like a priest plus a Death Knight can just take over both the Incorps and have them debuffing the enemy team. So that is pretty cool. Here's what I don't like about Frost DK. Death and Decay is pretty tricky. It is pretty tricky, and it has a long cooldown. If you mess up your Death and Decay windows, where you're getting the cleaving obliterates, if you mess that up, then you lose so much damage, okay? Look at the cooldown on this thing. It is a long freaking cooldown. So you have to be very careful about, you have to be very, very particular and careful about your DPS rotation, not to mess up Death and Decay. That is a massive problem if you do. So that's something it's just part of something I'm going to have to learn. That's part of the challenge, which could be a good thing, but it is also just very annoying. Like if I put this down at the end of a pack's life, to get some obliterates out and I don't have it up for the next pack, that's a huge problem. So I have to be very careful about that. You definitely have less AoE CC than Enhancement Shaman for sure. You have things like Blinding Sleep, but that is about it. You're more focused on single target CC, so a little bit less utility in terms of mass AoE, which can be a little frustrating if there's multiple casters doing like multiple dangerous spells at the same time. And you can't help with Afflicted at all. There's nothing you can do to help with Afflicted as far as I'm aware. If I'm wrong, somebody prove me wrong there, but I don't think you can help. You can help with Incorp, but you can't help with Afflicted. So that's it. In terms of the damage of all three specs, that's not really what I'm thinking about right now. Their damage is all going to be fine. The damage is going to be more than enough to do keys. I'm not worried about that. It's more about all these other little things that I've brought up. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Please let me know what you think. I'm trying to make a big decision here. I want to see exactly like what I should be playing. I'm definitely the most excited about Frost DK, again, because I've never played it before as a main, but I would love to hear what you guys think. If you think there's something really dumb about me taking Frost DK or Survival Hunter or Enhance, please let me know. Be nice down there, but I would love to hear from you guys. Let's start a conversation, okay? Thank you so much again for watching. Love you all. I will see you in the next one.